Vance Ancient History. Yeah. So this holds a very, this is personal for me. I know the Vance blood quite well. I do. And I support Donald Trump. JD, on the other hand, I don't believe he's a real Vance. Because I don't see it in him. I don't, because, you know, part of what the Vance blood has, and again, I know it well, is it's a fiery, big mouth, but also can be very humble and a huge heart. And there's just a big piece there in Vance missing. And given that he's had like 3 different last names, as a true Vance, so if somebody is truly has Vance blood, let's put it that way. I call bullshit on it. Why has he had 3 different last names? So anyway, but the history of this is, so the Vances go back to the Vans. They really going all the way back to the Baltic Sea before Christ. They defeated the Roman Empire in Italy. They were part of a Gothic sect on the Baltic Sea. And interestingly enough, when I was reading into this, one of the most famous Vances, which was Patrick Vans, was close friends with King James the First. Me being a big fan of King James the First, I said I'd love to meet him. If I could meet somebody in history, I would love to meet King James the First, because he was a good king. His sons, on the other hand, went Catholic, and all the problems that went on here in Scotland, all of it was because of the different kings that then would be loyal to the seat of Satan there at the Vatican. And so, but King James the First, however, who, had the Bible properly done and had the popery propaganda removed, was keeping the popery at bay. But then another king would come, and so then it created all these wars. And see, interestingly enough, what King James the First was trying to do with moving Scottish people to Ireland, to Ulster, was because of to quell the hate at Irish. Scottish did not want to be called Irish, because to be called Irish was mean you were Catholic. Which, when I read that, I'm like, oh, it's so true. And I was born and raised Catholic, okay? But I don't acknowledge it. I mean, a ton of my videos call that's the seat of Satan there, because I knew even in 6th grade, wearing my little Catholic uniform, that I'm like, yeah, God's not here. Yeah, he's not this pretty dwelling of a cathedral. Yeah, he's not. He doesn't reside here. But I was thinking too, when I read this about to be called Irish was to be, called Catholic. I remember in AA meetings so many times, people go around the room and, you're sharing your experience, strength, and hope. That's, what it's all about with, God and getting sober. And so people would say, I'm Bethany, I'm a recovering alcoholic, or I'm an alcoholic. But many people would say, I'm so-and-so, I'm a recovering Irish Catholic alcoholic. They would. So many of them would. Because where did they find God? They didn't find God in the Catholic Church. They found him in these, that's what I said, that's where I found God. It wasn't in a church. But because King James the First was trying to quell the hate that people had at Irish because of the Catholic stuff, he moved a bunch of Scottish people into Ulster, which is how you got your Scotch Ulster, or how you got why here in America we say Scotch Irish. There, that's like, no, they're just Scottish, because they don't want to be recognized with that. Because of all the wars it caused, all the wars the Vatican caused, all because they needed to be, supremacy. The Irish were primarily Catholic, and with And so what would happen is when they would get a new king, the new king would change everything. Okay? And so then there would be wars. Because truly the John Knox and the Protestant Reformation, even though a ton of stupid people want to carry on that those people ruined the faith. No, the faith, Jesus was in the spirit of Jesus was in those people. If that upsets Catholics, I'm sorry. But I have Vance blood in me, so I'm just going to say it like it is. That's what Vances are known for, really. Moving forward. And the other thing is Patrick Vance, who was a close friend to King James the First, who was the good king, who's the king I like. He is responsible. He had some hand in him and Anne of Denmark marrying. Yeah, so he was very, him and King James were like this, which is interesting, given right now in 2025, because you have the President Trump. I love President Trump. And he goes back to King James IV. King James IV was the grandfather of King James I of England. And then you have his vice president as JD. I just don't believe JD's true Vance. I don't know. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, there's just something, it's always been there. It's like, geez, there's just something missing. I don't know. I can't explain it. So eventually there were people that got tired of all the fights. So that's how, you got your people that were led here. So many of, they say that the Vances were the Scottish Puritans, okay? And this would make sense. Because the Scots-Irish Puritans differed from other colonial settlers in several important ways, particularly in religion, culture, and settlement patterns. So when it came to religion, Scottish-Irish Puritans were primarily Presbyterian Calvinists who adhered to a strict, disciplined form of Protestantism. They brought from Scotland and Ulster a tradition of intense hellfire and brimstone preaching, emphasizing individual salvation, moral rigor, and community discipline. Yeah, so see, that aligns with the Vance blood. This was more doctrinally rigid than the Anglicanism and English colonists or the Quakers. Their religious gatherings, such as holy fairs, were highly emotional and stress personal conversion. They were strict, intolerant. They had strict intolerance toward other religious expressions, banning holidays like Christmas. So now there's where I differ with them. Okay, you can't be banning other religions. Okay, the problem again with the seat of Satan there at the Vatican is they run around and claim they're Christian. So God, the Holy Spirit alive in you is going to convict you to speak up about it. It's just the way it is. The banning of Christmas is ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. There's nothing that says there's anything wrong with Christmas, but a bunch of people say it's paganism. It's how you're going to, we're not going to stop. This is being ridiculously ridiculous. So anyway, in some ways, so that's how they were different. Unlike wealthier English settlers who often established plantations or towns near the Atlantic coast, the Scotch-Irish tended to settle harsh frontier lands. They practiced a slash and burn farming style, clearing land themselves and moving on when soil was exhausted. They formed tightly knit kinships-based communities that valued self-reliance and resilience over formal government structures. Scottish-Irish settlers became the cutting edge of the frontier, moving into the Appalachian Mountains, Tennessee, Kentucky, and onward. With a history of resisting British rule in Ulster, Scottish-Irish settlers brought a strong independent streak and skepticism of authority, especially of central government and Anglican hierarchies. They are very much behind many of our freedoms, very much behind it because of the fighting, fiery spirit in them. I'll do a follow-up video to this.